If consistency is one of the keys to success, then prioritization, healthy, adequate prioritization, is a foundation for us to be successful in our consistency. And that is why I'm dedicating today's podcast episode to prioritization. How do I prioritize? Why prioritization is important? And again, giving my take on it, it's not going to be the usual things that you hear about all the time on prioritization. It's my take, my view on it, my unique perspective on prioritization. So, hi guys, welcome back to my podcast. Welcome back to this corner of the internet. I am super, super grateful, super glad that you guys are choosing to join in. There's a cat that decided to join in as well, just there. I'm currently in France, so my background looks completely different. I'm in the countryside. You can probably hear birds around. It's a really, really beautiful vibe, and I'm honestly having a great time looking at so many different flowers and like just so much life around me that I don't really get that much in the UK because I live in a big city. So there's not that many like animals and birds and flowers. So I think that this podcast episode is going to be really expansive in a different way because it's not in my room in the UK. It's here in France, in the countryside, and it's going to be beautiful. But if you don't know who I am, I'm Orlane. I'm a medical student in the UK, currently doing a master's in tissue engineering, and I'm obsessed with self-development, obsessed with growing and learning and becoming a better version of myself. And because I'm obsessed with it, I spend a lot of my free time dedicating to bettering myself. But I also want to bring you guys along with me, and I want to help you guys heal and grow while I heal and grow. That's the whole mission of my channel. But today we're talking about prioritization, aren't we? I'm going to structure this podcast episode in a few different parts. We're first going to talk about why prioritization is important. Again, starting with the why, the purpose, the foundation, the deepest layer as to why why it's important to talk about this, what's an important skill for you guys to develop and for you guys to master. And then we're going to talk about why I actually decided to talk about prioritization, because I had an interesting story this week that really sparked and forced me to prioritize adequately, and I thought that I do prioritization a little bit different to other people. And so I thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to share how I do prioritization a differently moi way, you know what I mean? And then we're going to talk about the different ways that you can prioritize that are kind of common, as well as my personal way of prioritization. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, all of the timestamps will be in a description or in the show notes below, so you can just jump around as you please, go to the sections that interest you. So let's start, guys. So why is prioritization important? So in the intro, I said that consistency is one of the keys to success, right? I talk about that a lot in a lot of my videos about consistency and how if you do something consistently, there's no way that you're not going to get to your dreams. There's no way that you're not going to develop that skill, become better at it. If you show up time and time again, there's no reason why you're not going to become good at that skill and you're not going to develop said skill and become a better version of yourself and get that much closer to your dream life and your dream version of you, right? But like with everything in life, consistency does not work in an ecosystem, right? It doesn't work on its own. You have to have foundations. You have to have a way of working and a way of approaching your life that feeds and allows this consistency to thrive, allows you to be consistent, right? If your life is fully disorganized, you have no sense of prioritization, no sense of planning your day, no sense of understanding what needs to be done before and what needs to be done after, it's a lot harder for you to be consistent with your dreams, consistent with your goals. And so for you to be consistent at the things that matter to you, the things that are going to get you that much closer to where it is that you want to be, where it is that you want, who it is that you want to become, it's really, really important that you guys have adequate prioritization. And prioritization just means that when you have a whole list of tasks that you have to do, we all have so many tasks on our to-do list. A lot of us have to-do lists that are longer than our arms, but prioritization is just the ability, the skill to know what task to do when. What is the task in that super long list that you have that you should do first? And why are you doing that one first and not another task on the list? And so it's the ability to have your list that's completely disorganized and reorganize it in a way that is with the task that is the most important to you to do first, up until the task that is like, kind of like responding to this email can be done in a week. It doesn't have to be done today. And so when you're able to kind of organize your tasks and then organize your life and your time adequately, it's after that you're able to stay consistent, right? There's a lot of different foundations that are important for you guys to have so that you can adequately be consistent. In the past, I've done a video all about consistency and the importance of it, and how do you stay consistent, which I basically was saying that you need to put a purpose behind the task that you want to do, behind the goal that you have. And once you have a purpose, you have a lot more motivation. You're a lot more able to be consistent with said thing when it gets hard. And I have a full video, a full podcast episode that's a lot longer that goes really, really deep talking about that. And I did have another video as well in the past that I made all about time management and how I do time management my way, the differently more way, which is a little bit different to the mainstream way that we always are taught and look about and that we learn about and see in the productivity world. Mine is a little bit different. But I realized that I don't have a video about prioritization. And I really do think that consistency, healthy, adequate consistency that allows you to be successful, really stands on a foundation of healthy prioritization and healthy time management. When you're able to successfully have a system that works for you as to how you can prioritize your life and your tasks, and how you can put those tasks that have been prioritized into your calendar, and understand how you're managing your time so that said tasks actually get done on said day. That's when you're able to really, 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 really crack the code of consistency. And then, inevitably, allow yourself to be a lot more successful. This is what prioritization is and why prioritization is super, super important, in my opinion. Now let's just move on to a quick little story. If you don't want to listen to that, that's completely fine. You can skip over this. I'll put the timestamp on the screen. I'll put the timestamp in the show notes and down below, so you can just skip that part if you're not interested. But the reason why I'm talking about prioritization, and the reason why it kind of hit me in the face and I was like, Orlane, this is the podcast episode for this week, it was actually because this week I had a super, super, super busy week. And if you follow me on Instagram, you probably realized that I told you guys that I didn't post a video this Wednesday, and if you follow me on YouTube, you probably might have seen that there was no video this Wednesday, and usually there's a video every single Wednesday. But my week was so incredibly busy. All of my evenings were booked, basically. All of my days, I was spending them in the lab, and I was just stressed about my project and working away at it and trying to really crack the code as to what I was going to do in this lab and really try to be successful at what it is that I'm doing for my studies, basically. And so I realized that because I was so busy, I didn't have the time to spend on editing the video for Wednesday. And I really sat down and I was like, Orlane, it's not that you don't have the time, you have the time. But if you do spend your time editing this video and posting it on Wednesday, what are going to be the drawbacks, right? And I realized that for me, editing that video on the Wednesday, which is my bonus video every week, right, is, again, it's a bonus video. If it doesn't get done, it's okay. And I realized that if I was going to edit this video and post it, it was actually going to put me in a position where other things that are really, really, really important to me would slack off in consistency. I was not going to be able to show up for other things that are super important to me if I decided to do this video and edit this video. And it reminded me, okay, this is a prioritization thing. I've prioritized my life in an unconscious way that's been this way for a very long time that allows me to make these decisions really, really fast, realize very fast, okay, this is not going to get done this week because I have something more important that I do want to get done. And my time currently is limited. And so because my time is limited and my resources are limited and my stress levels are high, I need to prioritize well. And I realized that if I actually showed up for this video, that's a bonus video, I was going to not sleep adequately. I was going to be more tired. I was not going to be able to show up appropriately at the lab the next days. I was going to slack off at the gym because I was probably going to be too tired to show up and I would lose consistency there. I probably wouldn't have time to cook good meals for myself because I would be too tired, busy editing. And I also realized that it probably would have an impact on posting this podcast on Sunday because I would be too tired. I would not have time to think about this podcast episode and everything. And I realized, okay, the downward spiral of me showing up for this thing and staying consistent in this thing is actually not worth the downward spiral that it's going to cause on all of my other things that I like and are really important for me to be consistent at. Which kind of actually swiftly moves me on to my first tips. And now we're moving on to the tips part of the video, which talks about the values. To be able to adequately prioritize your life, you need you need to be able to know what your values are. And the values are just things that are important to you, things that at your core are important and are valuable to you, right? That's why they're called a value. And so when you know these things, when you know what is important to you, one-on-one with your relationship with yourself, but also with your relationship with other people, you're able to prioritize your life a lot better, a lot simpler, and it's a lot more effortless. So for example, for me, I know that my values are my education, my health, showing up to the gym, eating appropriately, sleeping enough, having high energy levels, all of that. Showing up for this podcast every single Sunday is an important value of mine because I think that I add value. I feel purposeful when I do it. And then also like my social life, showing up for my people, talking to my parents, talking to my friends, being there for the people that matter to me, because community is really, really important to me and connection is really important to me. And so once you know the things that are important to you, right, you're able to, when you have a priority or something in your list that needs to get done that you think is a priority, you're able to put it side by side with your core values and see if it fits or if it doesn't fit. So for me, in my example, on Wednesday, when I was thinking, okay, I need to edit this video, I kind of weighed it up once against my core values. And I realized, okay, this video that's on Wednesday, that's my bonus video, right? It's a bonus. If it gets done, it gets done. It's cool. If it doesn't, it's okay. It does not fit anywhere with my core values of staying healthy, my core value of education, my value of showing up for you guys and being purposeful every single week with the podcast, because I was going to do that anyways, and with my value of connection and community with my people in real life, right? And so I realized, right, it doesn't fit in this. And because my time this week is so small, something needs to be ejected off of my priority list. And that had to be that. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that when you know your core values, what is important to you, what is truly, truly intrinsically important to you that you want to do every day or every week because it brings you something and it makes you who you are and it's important to you, then you're able to very quickly eject priorities that you think are super important but are actually not as important as other priorities when your time gets slimmer, when the ability for you to show up for these things consistently gets slimmer, right? Because obviously consistency is important, right? We've mentioned this so many times, but you can't always be in every season of life consistent with everything that you do, right? Sometimes you're going to be stressed, you're going to be overwhelmed, there's going to be days where it's difficult to be consistent. It's going to be weeks and months and years which is difficult to show up because something else is happening in your life. But the thing that is important is to stay consistent at the things that matter to you the most, right? And certain things will have to slack off, certain things will have to fall off the bandwagon, but that's okay because you do that consciously. You do that because you're like, well, right now my bandwidth, my ability to focus and be consistent on things has shortened because other things are pressuring me in my life, other external factors are pressuring me in my life, and so that now means that my bandwidth is smaller. And because my bandwidth is smaller, I'm going to stay consistent with the bandwidth that I have, but I can't stay consistent with the same 8 things that I was consistent with last year because I don't have the same bandwidth, right? Now my bandwidth has shortened, halved by 2. So now you have to be like, okay, I had 8 things I was consistent with. Now I'm only going to be able to do 4 or 5. What are these 4 or 5 things I'm going to be consistent at? And then you go to your value board and you're like, okay, these are my core values. So with those 8 things, what are these 8 things that actually fit within my values, right? That's my first point. My second point that I want to now talk to you guys about is kind of ways that you can be consistent. So there's a few different ways that you can do that. I'm going to mention kind of like the mainstream ones first to get them out of the way. But obviously there's ways that you can do, and then I'm going to move on to kind of more my way, kind of more like my unique way of doing things. So one of the ways that you can do this is actually have all of your priorities and class them, file them, organize them based on their importance, right? So you can have something that's important or not important to you, and then you can file them as well on top of that with things that are urgent and then not urgent. And then ideally, the tasks that are important and urgent get done first, and then the tasks that are, urgent but not important get done second, and then you can have your non-urgent but important tasks afterwards, and then your like non-important, non-urgent tasks, you do them at the end, right? I think the middle two, which is like important, not urgent, and urgent, not important, you can kind of figure out how do you class those, because do you class tasks more based on importance or based more on urgency? That depends on what the task is, right? So you need to have a little bit of a level of discernment there to understand how you're going to class this. So this is kind of like the more common ways that people tell you to prioritize is to be able to reflect on your tasks and be like, okay, I have X amount of tasks. Which ones are important? Which ones are not important? Which ones are urgent? Which ones are not urgent? And you can do that kind of relatively simply in a notebook, on a computer. You can like highlight them in different colors, and then you kind of have an idea, okay, all of the red tasks are the ones that are important and urgent. They need to get done today. Right, now I have 3 tasks that I need to get done today. Absolutely. How am I fitting them in my schedule? How am I time blocking them in my schedule? How am I managing my time so that they can be fit in my schedule? And before I fall asleep tonight, these tasks have been done, right? The other thing that you can do, the other technique that you can use to prioritize your time, to prioritize your task, is actually looking at each task that you have on your list. If you don't get that task done by the end of the day, what is the effect going to be in your future? What is going to happen in your life if you don't do said task today? And so you're going to realize that if you have a task that if you don't do it today, your boss is going to be incredibly angry at you, and you're not going to be maybe in line for the promotion you were hoping for, or you realize that if you don't do said task today, you're going to be in a really bad position for your exam the next week, or if you don't do this task today, then you're going to have to wait a whole other 2 months before you're able to go to this meeting or whatever it is. You realize that some tasks, if they don't get done a specific day, the effect of them are a lot more higher than other tasks, right? If you don't respond to that email today, probably nothing's going to happen. You can do that tomorrow. But another email, if you don't respond to it today and right now, you might lose a beautiful, gorgeous, magnificent opportunity in your life. Okay, little bird. You're going to lose a magnificent opportunity in your life, right? So maybe like filing your tasks based on the effect that it's going to have could also be really important in a way that is simpler for you to be able to prioritize rather than doing the normal, simple, like important, urgent situation. The next thing that I've actually realized for me is sometimes an adequate way of prioritizing is doing the task that stresses you out the most first. And sometimes that task might be not important, not urgent, or it might be important but non-urgent. But because it's on your mind, because it stresses you out, it's actually taking so much bandwidth in your mind, meaning that even if you prioritize and you do the urgent, important tasks first, because this other task is on your mind, you're not going to be able to show up for your other tasks that you're doing first appropriately. And so sometimes having the discernment and being able to like appropriately understand and know what it is, what task on that list that is stressing you out the most, what task is on your mind the most and making you be really stressed and like kind of procrastinating, because a lot of times when we procrastinate, it's because we're stressed, we're anxious, we don't want to do a certain thing because we're stressed, we're affected by it. We kind of realize sometimes that if you were able to maybe do that task first, get it out of the way, immediately your brain would like light up. There'll be so much more space for you to then show up for your important and urgent tasks. And that's definitely happened to me a few times. For example, when it might have been like a Sunday and I was like, I need to edit this video, I need to edit the podcast, post it so that my people can see, right, on the internet. Sometimes I've noticed that even though posting, editing was my priority of the day, that was the important, urgent task of the day, actually, if I didn't do 2 things that I had to do for my education, for my master's, even though they were important but not urgent, because they were on my mind, if I didn't actually do them before editing and before posting the video, I would just be stressed by them and I would just not edit appropriately. My workflow would be kind of lost. I would just be like stressed out of my mind and actually realizing, okay, Orlane, what is stressing me out the most? Okay, these 2 tasks that are to do for my supervisors are stressing me the most. Let me do these tasks first. Let me show up for these tasks first. And then once I've shown up for them, I can then show up appropriately and well for my other tasks that are important and urgent for the day. And so that's the thing that I think the differently moi way, my way of doing things, is sometimes understanding that you can make your own rules. You can show up in the way that you want to show up, in the way that makes sense to you. And sometimes those kind of like frameworks of doing the urgent, important things first, and then, you know, following whatever I talked about in the first way of prioritization, sometimes it doesn't work, because it doesn't take the complexity of the human being. It doesn't take into consideration that sometimes we're stressed, that sometimes we're nervous, sometimes we have something on our minds. You know, sometimes you might be like, right, I need to call my mother today. But that's something that can be done at any point of the day. So it's more important right now, more urgent, let's say, for me to edit this video, post it because I need to post it at 6 p.m. today. And I can call my mother at 6:05, right? But sometimes you might just be like, no, I want to call my mother now. This is what feels like I want to do this right now. And if you don't listen to that urge, you don't listen to that little pull, that little voice telling you, bestie, like, call your mother. Bestie, do this thing first. If you just try to stay rigid and stuck and, kind of a prisoner of those productivity techniques, productivity tips that you hear all the time, you're going to prevent yourself from actually moving and dancing to your own beat, right? You're going to prevent yourself from actually living life in a beautiful and effortless way that works for you, right? And that's what I'm trying to tell you, is sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you do the non-important, non-urgent thing first because it makes sense to you. Even though it doesn't make sense for other people, it's okay. It makes sense to you. And so that's why I think with this podcast and with this episode in particular as well, I just want to give you back your power. I want to let you guys know that you're allowed to do things your way. You don't always have to listen to other people. You can make up your own rules. You can make up your own techniques. You can follow what it is that your body wants. You can follow your own rhythm, dance to your own rhythm, dance to your own beat. And not always just listen to the things saying like, okay, somebody told me that I have to do urgent, important first. And so if I don't do that, then I'm a failure. If I don't do that, then I'm prioritizing wrong. And obviously that's why I'm not consistent. Maybe it's not that. Maybe you're not consistent because you're forcing yourself to be so freaking rigid in your life. You're preventing yourself from dancing to your own rhythm. You're preventing yourself from flowing and beautifully, elegantly, effortlessly dancing with your life and following your feelings. You're preventing yourself from doing these things sometimes when you follow kind of the mainstream, overused sometimes advice that is very rigid and very constraining, very like prison-like in some ways, not all the time. I think that everything has its purpose, everything has its goal, but if we don't know what the purpose of certain things are and we just take it for full 100% truth all the time, then that's when we can have problems. That's when we can have issues. That's when we can feel like we're constricted and blocked and stuck, right? Right, we're getting on to my last little tip for the day, which is kind of like similar to what I've just said, but it's just follow your intuition, follow your gut, follow that little voice that's telling you how to do things, right? You don't have to follow what somebody else has told you. And I know that is kind of like a repeat of what I've just said, but it is important to really drill it down, to really give you guys the power and give you guys the empowerment to be able to follow your own voice. I feel like a lot of the times we get so disconnected from our own voices. We get so disconnected from what we know will work for us. But because everybody else, society, your parents, your teachers, whoever it is, YouTubers online, whatever it is, people are telling you to do things a different way, you immediately, for some reason, assume that because you're doing it a different way to other people and what other people are telling you, it obviously means that you're doing it wrong. And it obviously means that you are not going to be as successful as them. But there's a lot of different ways to get to the top. There's a lot of different ways to get to your goal. You don't all have to take the same route, right? You don't all have to take the same exact road. There's different roads that work for different people, right? If you were in a wheelchair, you probably couldn't get to the viewpoint in the same way that somebody that doesn't have, that is able to use their legs. So sometimes you can get to the same viewpoint and somebody has to take the wheelchair route. Somebody else can take the medium route that's like kind of like gravelly, but like not too much, a little bit physical, but not too crazy. And other people can take the like, you know what, I actually want to do this. Oh my God, the sun is coming out, guys. Wait, let me redo my settings now because the sun is out. Other people might want to take the really, really risky, dangerous, like rock climbing route to get to the same viewpoint. At the end of the day, everybody got to the same destination. Everybody was able to be blessed with seeing the same view and, being in the same place, right? But you took different routes, and it's the same thing. For you to be successful in your own life, you might take a different route, a route that's completely untraveled. You might take something that nobody has done before, but it makes sense to you. And that will be the best route for you to take. And it's also going to be the route that will allow you to get to your success, to your goal, the fastest, because it's the one that makes sense to you. It's the one that you, even though it hasn't been traveled by other people, it's the one that you are meant to travel on, right? Not everybody is meant to take the same route as everybody else. And that is okay. And that's perfectly fine. And so that's why with a lot of the productivity world, with a lot of the things that people tell you, you should do this, you should do that, and you should follow this rule to be successful, and 5 tips to be successful in 5 months, or 5 tips to be successful in 5 days. Take it with a pinch of salt. Use your discernment. Use your ability to be like, right, out of these 5 tips, actually only one of them makes sense to me, and it only makes sense to me if I do these slight arrangements. On this recipe of success that this person on the internet told me, do these 5 things and you're going to be successful, actually I want to change these 5 ingredients, change the way I'm going to do the thing, change the way I'm going to knead the bread, and then it's going to be the perfect bread for me, right? But I feel like sometimes people do that with recipes, they do that with other things in their life, but they don't necessarily do that with their own life and their own path and road to success. And so I really hope that in this video I was able to bring you guys a little bit on a journey, showing you guys what is common to say for prioritization, all the way to, I think, the more uncommon things, the more unsaid things, the thing that people don't talk about as much. The reason why people don't talk about this is because it's not easy, tangible advice, right? It's not advice that you can just say to someone and then they'll be like, right, okay, I just follow this 2 steps and I'm going to get to the said destination. It's an advice that is a lot more intangible, a lot more, kind of in the air. It's difficult to pin down. It's difficult for people to understand, okay, what does this mean for me? But that's actually the whole beauty of the journey, is what does this thing mean for me? Because once you find said thing, once you get to the response that makes sense to you, then your life is inevitably hugely changed in a beautiful way. But nobody, yes, nobody can actually give you said answer for you. And that's why these videos don't do as well with tips that are not as actionable. Because a lot of the times you can do the actionable tips for a while, and then you kind of reach a plateau and you realize, right, this is not working for me. But the way for these tips to work for you is if you're also able to use your intuition, use your gut, use your little voice that's telling you, this tip works kind of, but for it to work fully for you, change it, do it this way. The same thing that we talked about last week, right, with reading. Reading works for you. You are a reader, but actually it works for you in this way. It doesn't work for you in this other way, right? And so, but actually it works for you in this way and not in the conventional way, right? And it's only when you're able to understand that, and only when you're able to have somebody give you the permission, empower you in those decisions. Sorry for the plane. I'm sorry. Is it a plane? No. It's helicopter. Hope people are okay. So it's sometimes only whenever you go through something really difficult where you have to pave your own way and you realize that, okay, I can do this. I've actually been able to show up a lot more beautifully because I followed my gut. I followed my way of doing it. Or sometimes when people outside in your life, on YouTube, on the internet, tell you and empower you to follow your own life, follow your own gut, follow your own voice. Because we all have that voice within us. We all have that little voice telling us, bestie, don't do this. Bestie, do this. Bestie, I know it looks weird, but actually this is the person that's meant to be for you. Or bestie, like, I know you don't get it now, but, this is going to be your husband, or this is going to be your house. This is going to be, you need to move to Switzerland, whatever it is, right? Sometimes you have these sort of intuitive pulls, these sort of like voice that talks to you. We all have that, but we learn through adulthood to numb it down, to shut it down. We teach ourselves that this is not to be trusted. But actually going back to that trust, going back to understanding and empowering ourselves with this voice, and knowing that this voice a lot of times knows best and knows our truth and knows what is important for us and what we want to get done in this world, that's when we start to actually move and leap in life, because we're following our path, we're dancing to our rhythm and not to the rhythm that is imposed on us, right? Because you'll still be dancing, but you might not be dancing to the music you want to dance to, or you might not be dancing with the rhythm that you want to dance to. You might not be dancing with the moves that you want to use, right? So yeah, kind of diverged fully, but I feel like that's what had to be said today. Whoever's listening to this and listened to this all the way through, I really hope that you found what it is that you were needing. I hope that the words that I said resonated with you fully, and you were able to feel seen and feel heard, and that you can kind of implement this advice, obviously on your prioritization journey, consistency journey, but also in a lot of different elements of your life, a lot of different aspects of your life, because I really do think that it will be beautiful for you. And I really hope that I was able to help you in the way that you needed to be helped today. But yeah, thank you very much if you listened all the way through the end. I'm really thankful for you. I'm really blessed that you did that. I hope that I was able, as I said, to find the right words that you needed to hear today. And if you did enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video, share this video with other people that could benefit from it as well. As I told you guys so many times, time and time again, I am trying to build a community. And where I can help you guys heal and grow. But I can only do so much on my own, which is showing up every single week online and putting these videos out there and sharing my truth with you guys and sharing my tips and tricks and everything. But I would really, really need your help and appreciate your help more so than anything. If you have somebody in your real life that you're like, well, they would really, really benefit from hearing this, please send it their way. Please share it with a friend, share it with a family member that you think will benefit from this, because it's only as well with your guys' help that we can build this community together and grow together and heal together. And the show can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully it can touch so many other people out there, because that is the goal of this. Honestly, it's fully heart-led. Yeah, I love this place. I love this community, and I love showing up for you guys every single week. It always energizes me, brings so much purpose out of me, and I feel so blessed that I get to do this, genuinely. And now, for the people that are listening to the podcast, thank you very much. Please, again, can you subscribe to the podcast, rate this podcast, leave a review if you feel compelled and you feel like you want to. And yeah, guys, I'm so freaking happy to be here. I'm so freaking happy to spend and share this space with you guys. I hope you enjoyed the background of my place in France. It's not mine, but you get what I mean. And yeah, honestly, hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day, whenever you're listening to this, that this video found you at the appropriate time. And I love you guys so much. I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.